Hi, I'm David Levin, and this is Pop Goes the Culture. You know, this summer it's 30 years since one of my favorite films came out, Back to the Future. And since Back to the Future had Marty McFly and Doc Brown travel to 2015, it seems only appropriate that we should run my conversation with the great Dr. Brown himself, Christopher Lloyd. I was really excited to meet Christopher Lloyd. He's always been one of my favorite actors. He seems to always find the quirkiest parts, or maybe that's just what he turns them into. Like many others, I first became aware of him on Taxi, but of course he later went on to do Star Trek, Roger Rabbit, Addams Family, and many others. Today, in the first part of our chat, we'll talk about how Christopher Lloyd got started, his first journey to Hollywood, his role in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and how he landed his breakout role as Reverend Jim on the hit sitcom Taxi. Talk about how you got involved with One Flew Over the Cuckoo's.
Well, I was, at the time I was living in New York. I was actually at a production of Macbeth at New York Shakespeare Festival production at Lincoln Center downstairs. And I was I think I looked pretty manic the way I was. I had a shaved head, I think, and kind of grizzly for the play. And a casting director by the name of Vic Ramos, I think was his name, who had sent me up now and then, sent me to meet Saul Zaentz and Milos Forman and Michael Douglas. And subsequently I went in, and they had Milos Forman would set up by way of an audition. He would set up 7 or 8 actors at a time, and he'd sort of play the part of Nurse Ratched and conduct a session. And Milos would feed us various things and try to get some stuff going on, and that was. I came back. I think a couple more times, similar.
Who were you improvising with?
I don't recall. It was just there were a lot of actors waiting, and he'd bring in a group, and maybe let 1 or 2 go, and bring in a couple more. But I don't remember. I don't remember that it was anybody that was cast subsequently or not. I don't know.
So what was it like once the show got started? Once the movie got started, I mean, was it different for you? I mean, it was your first movie.
It was my first movie, so and Jack Nicholson, who I was an ardent fan of already. I couldn't believe I was going to be in the same film with him, and Louise Fletcher and all the rest of us. I think most of us, the patients, hadn't done that much work, except who was a gentleman who's passed away. But I was expecting each day that I was going to be released, and I was going to cut it. It was my first movie. I wanted to be in a film for a long time, and I became aware that certain actors didn't make the bridge from stage, which had been all my experience, stage to film, and I was beginning to accept that perhaps I'm, because I'd had a lot of film interviews over the years in New York, and not a nibble. I mean, just nothing took. So I just began to think, well, that's not going to be my, thing. So, but it was very exciting.
When you were doing it, was there anything that surprised you about the process of film versus stage? I mean, with a background in stage, you know what you're doing. Film is a very different animal.
The difference between adjusting to the film, I think the thing that I became particularly aware of is how contained a close-up is, and that you have to, it's very easy to overact. And it took me a while to because I'd done only stage work. I didn't, and the film just you don't need much, So that was an adjustment, but otherwise it seemed pretty obvious.
I had heard, or I had read somewhere that when you were playing that part, and also when you were playing Jim, that you didn't create character. Is that true? Is that just one of those sort of rumors?
I probably didn't. I mean, I don't exactly go to the extent of taking it home with me, but once I'm there, on the set, it's like I try to keep it there. There's always sometimes when I remember doing a scene, and I'd get into that place where my character, or where I had to be when I was performing, and I'd do like a couple of master shots, and I'd feel really good about it. And I would allow myself to get involved with a conversation with somebody or some other distraction, and then it was time for close-ups. And there were times when I lost that particular edge I had in the master, so I kind of learned to avoid getting involved in conversation, telephone calls, food, whatever, and just stay in that place until the last take.
Do you still do that today? Is that still
I'm apt to do that, yeah. Maybe I'm a little less rigid about it, but I'd rather give up the distractions, and because it's not a happy situation not to feel you're not really, that not giving your best when the camera rolls.
How'd you feel about your performance once you saw it for the first time?
Cuckoo's Nest?
Yeah.
I guess kind of mixed. There were some moments that I felt were crossed almost the edge of credibility, but I guess we were all loonies, so there was space for that. I was okay with it.
What happened after? What was the reaction to Cuckoo's Nest after?
Well, it was a pretty big hit. I think at the time it garnered more Oscars in more categories than any other film at that time, and it was very popular, and certainly made its mark.
What happened to you after that?
After that, I went back to, after we finished filming, I went back to New York, where I lived. And then when it came out, I got a call from an agent here, Bob Gersh at the Phil Gersh Agency, saying that if I ever came out to LA, they'd be interested in meeting me. I very much wanted to come to LA. I wanted to do more film work. I hadn't before because I just didn't think I'd just be another body out here. And so I came out, and they asked me to sign. I'm still signed with them for a long time. And then I remember when I came out, I had an agent in New York, and she wanted me to sign with another agent out here who would split commissions, that kind of arrangement. And Gersh said, no way. That just wasn't their policy. So I had to extricate myself from that situation. And I've been given a long list of agents to see out here, warned repeatedly about the business out here, not getting stuck with a bad agent and everything. So even though Bob Gersh asked me to sign right away, I resisted for about 2 or 3 months, just to, check things out. And then he finally submitted me to a movie, freelance. If I'm drifting out off topic here.
No, I'm very happy.
They submitted me for a film I was cast in a film, and it was the first time writer, first time director, producers, there were two in the same, in Santa Fe, New Mexico, in which I had to ride a horse. I was a conquistador. I rode a horse. I had scars on my face. I had to wear a wig and have a battle on a horse with armor and all that, which was cool. And I've ridden a lot, so I went to Santa Fe about a week before the day it was to shoot. I was just enthused, and I wanted to get all that together, all that, you know. And I got nowhere. I couldn't get to sit down with anybody to look at makeup, the wig. I got constant resistance about the horse. I had just one thing after another. Christopher Walken was the lead in it. Christopher Walken and I forget the woman. It's called Santa Fe 1876 or something like that. So when it came the morning of my first day in front of, it was about a 6-week commitment. When it came the morning for my first take, I hadn't seen my wig yet. And I'd asked repeatedly, you know, I went to the lady who was doing the wig, and I said, "Can I see my wig?" And she was very impatient. She was working with somebody, and she reached in a drawer and threw it at me. And that was that. I just went to the director and producer and said, I'm leaving, you know. And I left. I went back to my motel room to pack up. And they had Christopher Walken call me to try to talk me out of it because we had been acquainted, etc. And just a few days before that, while I was there, Phil Gersh, sent me my contracts because I'd been, you know, kind of playing. So I had the contracts there to sign, and they called me up. I forget, one of the agents at Phil Gersh, and gave me kind of the riot act. You know, he said, "You're going to walk on your first job. You're going to walk, and is that the way you're going to establish?" You know, and really gave me, wasn't yelling on it, but he just gave me, and I refused. And you know, we had a discussion about it, and I said, "No, I'm not staying." And then he said, "Okay." And then I said, "You still want me to sign the contracts?" And he said, "Sure. Like, what did that have to do with anything?" And I signed it. Yeah, I thought that was, you know, be able to, if the agent's going to give you that latitude, you know, what more, you know, so that was that.
That's great. So walk me up to, was Taxi the next big thing for you? Was there?
Yeah, I guess so. I think I did some more plays in New York, a couple of small shots. I did a couple of Barney Miller episodes, movie of the week,
Right.
But Taxi was the big thing.
And that was just another guest shot, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Tell me about how you got involved with Taxi.
How what?
How did you get involved with Taxi? What was your? How did they approach you? Did you know what it was?
I sort of knew what it was. I'm pretty sure I knew because I knew Danny, you know, Danny DeVito. Well, ironically, when I came out here, I didn't want to do sitcoms. I even told Gersh that. I said, I'm not interested in doing sitcoms. I had a bit of a attitude, you know, being a New York actor at that time, kind of scorning in sitcom land. But so for a long time, he didn't submit me to. And then he started nudging me in. Also, I wasn't working, so I got the script, I guess, for Taxi. And when I could, I would always try to dress as a character when I would go into audition. So a friend of mine who lived up in Laurel Canyon and was clearing trash and around bushes or whatever, he found this old jacket Levi jacket with a piece thing on it, kind of messed up and been sitting outside. He gave me that. I had a torn up pair of sneakers from an ex-father-in-law and old Levi's shirt, and I sort of put it all together and wore it in for the audition. I believe I auditioned with Ed Weinberger and James Brooks, I guess. And I auditioned, and as I was leaving, they said, when you come back Monday, wear what you're wearing. So that was how that got started.
Wow. What was it like? I mean, was Taxi a show you'd been aware of, or?
I was aware of it, but not that aware. You know, I knew about it. I knew that Danny was working on it, but I really wasn't that aware of it.
So what was that first week like? You were just guesting? Is that what it was?
I was a guest. Yeah, I was brought in to perform a marriage, Latka and a woman, in order that he could get his green card. And then a few months, or several weeks later, I forget, I came back as a regular.
Why did they tell you they wanted to bring you back?
I don't know that they ever explained why. I guess it just, whatever I was doing kind of balanced out with the show.
What was on the page for Reverend Jim in that first show, and what did you sort of bring to the table?
Oh, that first show when I was a guest, and every show what they wrote, I didn't alter anything. I've never felt that confident with changing words or.
Right, but the character itself, I mean, the way you presented the character.
Oh, that's just sort of the character sort of just came out of how I responded to what they wrote. My oldest brother is deceased now for a few years. He was 22 years older than I to the day, and he maybe had one cigarette a day after lunch or something like that. He never drank. Needless to say, any other mind-altering substances were just not in his life whatsoever. And but he had a look on his face. And when we come back from a hiatus, sometimes I feel that I didn't quite have Reverend Jim back in the groove. And I think of my brother's face. And my brother's face, it was like his face, the way his face just set. It was kind of like that. And I don't know, I don't know if unconsciously that's what made me make the original choice or what, but whenever I was kind of not quite in the groove with Reverend Jim, I just think of my brother.
Did you ever tell your brother that?
Yes, I did.
How did your brother
react? And I don't know that he knew quite what to make of it, because I sent him a picture and signed it and sort of said thank you or something like that. And in fun, you know. I never got a response though, but we continued to be on good terms. So.
The voice also was just so hilarious. I mean, just the way you just
sort of came. That wasn't my brother's voice, but it just sort of came as a.
How would you describe Jim?
Well, the way they wrote him, he came from a kind of upper middle class bourgeois family from Massachusetts, Cambridge, say, or wherever, and I went to Harvard, and he had things pretty well taken care of, but I guess he was kind of not too grounded. And that day when they offered him a brownie. He kind of found his niche, you know.
That was one of the best, with Tom Hanks, right?
Tom Hanks, that's right.
Played your roommate. One of the best episodes.
It
It was hilarious. And what was great about that, I mean, you know, you played Jim so convincingly that if nobody had seen you in anything else, they would think that you were that person. And then that gave you an opportunity, that particular episode gave you an opportunity to just show a completely different side that you were capable of.
That was it's always fun to have an opportunity like that. Yeah.
That's all we have time for today. Next time, my conversation with Christopher Lloyd continues. We'll talk some more about Reverend Jim, Andy Kaufman, working with Mel Brooks, and what it was like to kill Captain Kirk's son and destroy the Starship Enterprise. All that, and I'll tell you about how you can get a free Star Trek toy. Hope you'll be with us.